Welcome to the Titans Midweek Report. I'm Sammy Mamo. He's Paul Kaharski. We are here to talk Titans topics. Got a lot of good stuff we want to get into, some Cam Ward, some Xavier Restrepo, and a whole lot more than that. I wanted to start off, Paul, asking you about Justin Graver, Titans Film Room on Twitter, put out a what I thought was a great video on Monday.
Bad audio right out of the start. How am I sounding?
You sound good.
All right, restart there a little bit. Yours is poppy.
Okay, that's weird. All right,
just hit the question.
All right, Justin Graver talking about kind of how we discuss football and discuss fandom, and a lot of this was about Cam Ward and everyone wanting to have a definitive statement about who he is, what he is at this point in his career, and not being able to just look at things in the today and in the now. What do you think that there has been a big shift in the way that fans and the media cover these quarterbacks and require these answers early on in their careers?
I think absolutely. It goes along with the big shift in us as a society, everything in sound bites and Insta everything, right? I get questions about the third line of a tweet because people can't make it through the first two lines. And they want things mashed up and instantly solved. People need instant answers. They don't understand any kind of level of patience, and ownership and management has gotten tainted by that as well. I mean, a quarterback used to guaranteed have 3 years if he was a high draft pick. Now, you're probably going to have shown something substantial by the end of your second year to not face some level of competition or threat or serious public outcry, at the very least, going into your third year. There's just no time given, despite the fact that there is a tremendous amount of evidence right now about how long it takes these guys. And you have to look no further than the quarterback the Titans are facing this week, who's got Seattle with a very good offense, Sam Darnold, after multiple stops. I mean, he went from a dysfunctional organization, the Jets, and bounced around and is now running a very, very effective offense on a very good team. That's a heavy favorite to be a strong contender in the NFC, even though they just lost narrowly to the Rams.
Yeah, they've had a fabulous year, and you can add to that list with Baker and with obviously we'll see how it all plays out in Indy, but so far so good for them. There's so much, especially with this team, and it's hard because you have to couch so many things, right? But there's so many factors that go into the quarterback. And how they play and how they do. And there are two other things I want to talk about. The first one, if you can pull up Zach Lyons' tweet, he had this tweet on the heels of the Graver video that I thought was it's good context, because Cam Ward, this is EPA basically of the defenses that these rookie quarterbacks, former number 1 overall picks, played or faced in their rookie years. And you can tell right there, it's pretty drastic. Cam Ward has had a tough slog in the defenses he has had to face as a rookie. That is pretty much unprecedented in recent history. On top of that, you've got Josh Norris and Underdog had a state of Cam Ward that came out yesterday. It was really good as well. And
let's hit these numbers real quick for people who are listening. Cam Ward, 7.9 average rank EPA per play, average rank against Cam Ward. Second worst, Joe Burrow saw 12.6, which is substantially lighter. After that, Trevor Lawrence, 14.8, Bryce Young, 16.3. But you get to guys like Kyler Murray, saw 18.1, Baker Mayfield, 19, Caleb Williams, 20.7, 7.9 versus 20.7 for Caleb Williams, who was 4-6 in his first 10, as opposed to Cam Ward, 1-9. I don't like to use quarterback record as a thing, but their teams had that record in their first 10 games. I mean, the Titans have had a ridiculously tough slog. I'm going to write about their schedule Thursday and, some imaginary alternate worlds. I think it's probably good in the long run for Cam Ward to have faced this if he comes out the other side. But, your record really only affects 3 games the next year. And if one of those games is against New England, who's substantially better than it was last year, and then if one of your division foes happens to be Indianapolis, who's the other, turnaround story of the year, things don't benefit you a great deal. And that's something that's worked against the Titans. I call it kind of Titans luck,
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. And my thing is, it's not just.
Man, your internet sucking.
Don't say that.
That's true. I speak the truth on here. Go ahead. You're back.
So with Josh Norris and the state of Cam Ward, like they talk about the things that we talk about, right? It's a national level, but obviously the coaching staff has changed. Play caller has changed. This roster sucks. He's throwing to 4th round rookies and undrafted free agents who've been in the league for 5 years. At what point, this coaching staff, 99% of them are going to be here next year, right? This is Borgonzi's quarterback. He picked him. He's picking the coach. At what point is Borgonzi even getting a read on what Cam Ward is because of the circumstances, because of who he's being coached by, who he's playing with, and who he's playing against in this rookie year? How do you get a good read on that?
Well, I think he gets the best read he can out of, best moments, worst moments, mid-tier moments. He evaluates that with the coaches that he has, with Chad Brinker, and in these interviews with head coaching prospects. What do you think? What do you think the ceiling is here? What do you think the floor is here? What can we do with this guy? You hope, those guys are going to give you the I want the job assessment, but you also want them to give you the what can I do when I get the job assessment. You have to be able to delineate between the two and hire a guy you can go forward with as a football team builder, as a guy who's going to make the team better, but not a guy who's going to give you all fluff on Cam Ward. That can tell you we can win with this guy if we do X, Y, and Z around him, or he can take us so far if we only have this at wide receiver and this on the offensive line, or I'd need these 3 elements on offense around him if we were an elite defense, all kinds of different scenarios around Cam Ward. But spell it out for me if I'm Mike Borgonzi. Your visions. Let's see how they align with my visions. And then I got to find a guy that has a similar vision to mine, and we've got to go forward together. I'm sure Mike Borgonzi is not thinking that Cam Ward is fantastic and everything is about what's around him. He's clearly got some issues that are separate. And that's another thing fans have problems with here, that, everything's black and white to fans, all or nothing. So they say, well, you can't judge Cam Ward at all because his receivers are so bad and the protection's so bad. Well, yeah, lots of quarterbacks drafted this high come into bad teams. Bad teams have the first overall pick in the draft, and they get judged on what they do given the circumstances. You have to round the scoring based on what he has and what he doesn't have.
So, how do you grade it so far, right? The high, obviously the lows are the dropped fumbles that are, not unforced, all that kind of stuff is awful, right? But like his highs, what you've seen out of his highs so far, what do you think he can be? Do you there's a lot of discussion from people. He sucks. This sucks.
Yeah, I don't think he sucks. I mean, I don't think he's played very well at all. And I don't think his high moments have arrived consistently enough. But you see him make some throws and some intuitive plays where you say, whoa, if you can see more of that, if you can produce more of that, he could be a good quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league, but I think there's potential for him to be a top 15 quarterback in the league. I hope it happens on a timetable where it's in Tennessee for the Titans under the next coach. I don't think it's outlandish to think it could be in 5 years for another team and another situation, which would suck for the Titans. But it's far too early to be dismissive of him and to say that what he is now is what he's going to be. I think that's a disservice to any quarterback to say that after 10 games, really, no matter how bad he's been, if he hasn't shown you anything. And Cam Ward has an arm. Cam Ward has NFL persona with an ability to forget things and move on. I think he's got NFL leadership qualities. I think he's got some NFL movement, more behind the line of scrimmage than past it, though he had a couple very nice runs the other day, which you'd like to see become more a part. He said it was kind of Houston specific, that Houston, the way they rush the passer, gives up room like that. There's room like that against virtually everybody.
I agree.
And I hope the Titans learn from that. Don't think that was Houston specific. There's enough that Cam Ward has shown us for a team, maybe not its fan base, but for a team to be enthusiastic about where it can get this guy with an offseason. I've written this lately, of intensive work on mechanics and more.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I hope you're right. I want it to work out. I believe in Cam. We'll see what happens. There were some stats that Graver had put out as well in terms of Titans efficiency by personnel grouping. Right now, in 11 personnel, the Titans are more efficient at running than passing. And in 12 personnel, they're significantly more efficient passing, but are struggling running. We know the team.
Well, that makes a little bit of sense, right? 3 wide, you're more spread out. It's not uncommon to run well out of being spread out. 2 tight, you tend to be a little bit more condensed. That gives you a little bit, I don't think it's that uncommon to pass well out of it. And that seems to be a trend right now in the league, where you're condensed and guys can kind of go spread out. You don't start spread out anymore. You spread out of that formation and have some success passing. That seems to be trending.
However, one thing that was highlighted also is that they're not using motion much. And I was wondering if you have any insight on that, or if you picked up on that yourself. But the percentage of motion appears to be very low compared to what we've been used to in the past and league wide.
Well, I think the Titans not using a lot of motion is to keep things simple for Cam and for the people who would be going in motion, so that you don't screw up timing, so that you don't increase false starts, which they've had problems with just linemen, better yet, receivers or tight ends or backs. But motion does help you force matchups and get a read on what the defense is doing at times. So maybe they're sacrificing a degree of that, and that's not to their benefit. I can't pretend to know all the intricacies of that, but I certainly think that the podcast you're referring to, where they did a nice review of Cam, they basically said, all of the things you would expect a team to do with a coaching change, with a struggling rookie quarterback, with a roster that's not super talented, all of these formational personnel and numbers that we see from them are what you would expect.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I feel like, when you have clear advantages at certain things and the numbers bear it out and the eye test bears it out, I go back to the coaching. Like, why is this coaching staff not putting them in these positions and attacking these things more often than they are? And maybe it's just that they're just, don't know what they're doing. I mean, they're kicking field goals on 4th and 2. When you're up 3.
Look, I think it's important here too. We're talking about 2 wide, right? Going too tight. Sorry. Correct. We're talking about going too tight. It would make so much more sense for the Titans to go too tight against the Seahawks than it would to force 3 wide if 2 of your wide receivers are going to be slot guys. And you're going to have Mason Kinsey and James Prochet as 2 of your top 4, probably. DK looks like he'll be healthy. Jefferson will be healthy. But Isle Manor looks unlikely with the hamstring. And I got, surprisingly, Mike McCoy to say he'd prefer the slots be slots, maybe play 2 positions, but you don't want them to be in positions to play 3. And so what's your way around that? Well, I don't think it's playing the bigger guys off the practice squad and calling them up with their inexperience. Why not play more Gunnar Helm and Chigakonkwo and fewer snaps of slots like Kinsey, like Prochet, like Restrepo? I don't see how you call up Restrepo and have 3 slot receivers, pure slot receivers, on your 53-man roster when you only have 1 slot position. It's too heavy on the slot. Go heavier on the tight end.
I'm gonna get to the Restrepo thing, but my thing is, it's like you and I have had this discussion. I've heard you talk about it on 102.5. I've heard everywhere. We've been saying that they need to get the tight ends more involved for weeks, and now that we're down to your 5th and 6th receivers, I'm sure that they will. But like, why is it taking this long? They are clearly 2 of your top 5 pass catchers when everyone was healthy.
Look, I did research on this, and the Cincinnati system uses the tight ends more than you think. But, in its prime with Chase and Higgins and Boyd, it was a 3 wide receiver offense. And there was more tight end to it than you thought, but it's still a 3 wide receiver offense. And I think Brian Callahan brought that system here as a 3 wide receiver offense. And it's tough for them to stray from it to the degree that it needs to be more tight end heavy based on their personnel. And I think there's a certain stubbornness in it more than anything. And they've got to shift to their personnel strength more than they have.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's at least an answer I can understand and accept, even if I don't necessarily love it or agree with their particular thought process on it. You mentioned Restrepo and a little bit of the injury situation. Can you get into the rest of the injuries and then we'll get into Restrepo? How are things looking to that end for them this weekend against Seattle?
So Isle Manor was out Wednesday with the hamstring, but we did see DK out there with his chest contusion, and he was a full participant. So barring some kind of setback, he should play. Other guys that didn't practice, Daryl Baker with a knee did not play. Kendall Brooks with a concussion did not play. He's been great on special teams lately. Chig was limited with the foot. I wouldn't think that would be a thing. Simmons rested. They listed him with the hamstring, but we were told it would be rest. Spears rested. Hottie Ward rested. Xavier Woods still did not play with the hamstring. I don't think they're rushing him back because he's creating room for Winston. And Zeitler, who we were told is listed with the back. But I think the big issue there, and Mullings was a full participant with an ankle, so this could be the week that he comes out of his 21-day practice window and returns. But I think they'll be a little better at wide receiver than we thought. They're going to lose 1 in Isle Manor, but not 2 with DK primed to come back. Hopefully it's nothing with Chig and the foot. So it won't be as bad off weapon-wise as we think. Now, if Baker's out, the super thin, super inexperienced cornerback group loses the most experienced overall guy, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. So I know you mentioned DK is going to be there, so they're only going to be down 1. Obviously, there was video today of Restrepo wearing his number in practice instead of a practice squad jersey. And my Twitter feed has been filled with Kinsey talk for the last couple of days because of his performance. And you had a pretty impassioned, moment about Kinsey after the game on Sunday too. And I understand your point that that Restrepo hasn't shown anything to say he's better than Kinsey to these coaches. That does speak volumes. But at the same time, from a fan perspective, like I would rather watch the unknown bad player who has a history with my rookie quarterback than the known bad player that we know is bad. And I think fans just kind of want to just see it. Like, let him go out there and be bad, and then we can shut up about it. Do we get that opportunity this week?
I don't know. Again, having now Kinsey's on the 53 and now Prochet's on the 53. So I just maybe, but you're going to have 3 slots there. I mean, somebody's going to be limited to strictly special teams. And I think Prochet's better than both Kinsey and Restrepo, and has experience and can play, is the best at playing beyond the slot. So to me, he would be the guy that I would want. What do we have? We have Chim and Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're looking for a third. To me, the third should be Prochet. So now we're talking about the fourth. You want the fourth to be Restrepo, who's called up, and Kinsey then limited to special teams. I don't think you're getting any quality special teams out of Restrepo. I think he'll work hard, but I think he'll be overmatched. I mean, I'm fine. If Restrepo's the fourth wide receiver on Sunday, so be it. And hopefully it'll shut up all of this nonstop conversation, which I've had my fill of. But also, it's amazing to me, and this is my big Restrepo take. Everybody who is insistent that Restrepo play thinks the Titans have absolutely mismanaged Restrepo in terms of getting him on the roster. But they're convinced that he will be perfectly managed in terms of the deployment that they want to see. So the people who have held him down because they don't know what they're doing will perfectly manage him and deploy him like they want. So they think these are idiots who have not been smart enough to get him on the roster. But once they get him on the roster, they will throw to him 8 times and he will have 120 yards. And I think they're going to be in for a big disappointment.
Well, we were talking about this in the All 22 chat yesterday. I was like, I don't expect him to be good, but if he can eat up 20 snaps and get you 2, 3, 4 catches for like 30 yards and a couple first downs, like it's a net positive. And if he can't, then we can move on.
Well, if he has 2, 3 catches for 20 or 30 yards, I'm going to say, woo, what's the big deal? I mean, you've all been clamoring for this. Wow.
Better than Kinsey did last week, to be fair.
But... And I might have been harsh on Kinsey. My thing is that Kinsey's been around for 6 years. And if you can't get incrementally better than that, I mean, he goofed on the route that was deep. I know Cam's being, a stand-up guy and saying he's got to hit him in the chest, but he needs to take that route, get it to the sideline, and then that ball would be over his inside shoulder. And instead of doing that, he didn't get to the sideline, and he looks like a guy who's spinning circles and who has no idea where the ball's coming from and has never played receiver before. And I thought the other one was a ball that he should have been able to reach if he kept running. He got a hand on it. And I just want more from a guy. And Rex Rhodes making fun of me today that the 17th receiver is a big concern of mine. I think they could be concerned with multiple things at the same time, and that 3 regimes have been very satisfied with a good practice player who, when put on the spot to make a game contribution, wasn't able to make much of a game contribution. I think that's a failure.
I agree on all fronts. This is the Titans midweek report from paulkuharsky.com. I'm Sammy Mamo. He's Paul Kuharsky. I'll let Paul do his spiel right there.
Yeah, come join paulkuharsky.com. All the best Titans news and analysis you're going to find. Blake Benningfield with post-game scouting analysis. Drew Beatty with film review. He had last week a great one on Peter Skoronski. Today, one on J.C. Latham, saying that, this bounce back to people saying, well, he had the penalties, but between the snap and the whistle, he played pretty well. He doesn't agree with that at all. He thinks the Titans feel afraid to let him go against a premier edge rusher without help all of the time, and shows that there was one run blocking snap that, you just had to wonder what J.C. Latham was doing. Mike Herndon, who wrote a fantastic piece last week, kind of that should put you at some ease about Cam Ward, stacking him with the other quarterbacks in the last however many years, 18 quarterbacks that have been top 5 picks, and what they've done through their first 10 games, where he does not come up as poorly as you might expect in a lot of major categories. And of course, Braden Gall with a look towards the Titans draft future, plus everything I write, all for $750 a month. You're spending that on a cocktail, on a cup of coffee, on a beer. So come join. You get into a private Facebook group that we have, and right in the mix. And you support independent journalism on the Titans. A lot of people seem to like what I do at the press conferences. They hear, I think I'm a necessary voice there, and you can help support that. So please jump on board.
I'm biased, but I agree. Perfect segue from Drew's piece. There was a discussion today in the 22 chat again about Latham and the possibility that, or the probability, asking about, could he end up at right guard, right? And I'm wondering what your general, not for this year, but going forward, do you view that as a remote possibility, a likelihood at all? Or is Latham a guy that needs to work a tackle or not be here? Or is that even a luxury this team can do?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got to be here through at least 2 more years. So, look, he needs to play out this season at right tackle. He needs to play better than he's played. I think there's some questions about, I think a lot of these questions about kids not following veteran leadership and all of that we've heard from Arden Key and Hottie Ward. I think Latham's a target of that. I think he needs to grow up some. And I think he needs a big finish this year. Then I think a new coach, a new offensive coordinator, a new offensive line coach are going to have a judgment day on a lot of these guys. I think it'd be a huge fail for this team if Latham is not a tackle. And if you've spent the 7th pick in one draft and the 11th pick on another draft on 2 guys who turn out to be guards, Skoronski, they intended to be one. Latham, they did not. But if they then need to find a right tackle after needing to find Dan Moore, who's only going to be a stopgap for another year at left tackle, the merry-go-round just continues on the offensive edges, and it's a disaster. So hopefully whoever these people are can get the best out of J.C. Latham, who Bill Callahan obviously liked a lot and didn't get to finish working with, but didn't do great work with while he had him. The hip set him back. Seemed very serious-minded when he lost the weight and assessed his first year, but it's not been better enough yet. But I think it's way too early to think he's going to be a guard.
I think that's the part that blows my mind, and I think so many other fans' minds about this, is that he looked so good coming into camp. He lost that weight. You had the body transformation, looks to be in great shape, and he's switching to his natural position on the right side, yet somehow the performance is worse in almost every regard.
Did not face a lot of adversity at IMG. Did not face a lot of adversity at Alabama. Let's hope, for his sake, for the Titans' sake, that this is adversity pushing at him for the first time in his career in a big way, now in a second year, and that he learns how to push back. And if he learns how to push back, I think he's got some physical traits. Though Drew Beatty's thing today, has some questions about lateral movement and things that you don't want to hear. I want to think it's more mental than physical, but this piece is concerning in terms of the physical elements.
All right, Paul. Last thing I got before I ask you what's coming up this week is Beatty related as well. Kevin Winston, I thought, had a really good game, and then Beatty kind of backed that up, and many people have. Your takeaways on him and his performance?
Look, they need to be faster in the back end. They got corners whose speed may be all right, but their thought process is slowing down. Jalen Armour-Davis and Marcus Harris, and probably Darrell Baker too. Amani Hooker is not having a very good season, and he's lost some of his speed. Xavier Woods not fast. Condre Diggs is not here anymore, in part because he was not fast. And Kevin Winston can give that group a jolt of speed and agility that it lacks. So I think good start there. Keep it coming. Don't give in to the temptation to overextend because of what there isn't around you. I think Denard Wilson doing a good job with him so far. So he's an encouraging guy that you hope has a big finish to this year, and they need, hopefully. I think Femi Oladejo has a chance to emerge in the next couple of weeks, and maybe he could have a good month on his way out as well, and give this draft class a bit of a big finish all the way through, to really have something to grow on for the new coaching staff as it comes in, which is exactly what this team needs as it hunts for, hopefully another win or two for the young guys' sake.
All right, Paul, I appreciate your time. What you got coming up at paulkoharski.com this week?
Thanks. So at paulkoharski.com tomorrow, I'll write about the schedule. Mike Herndon will football weekend and a draft angle for what it all means for the Titans, who currently hold the number 1 pick in the draft. And the Paul Koharski podcast from Edley's Barbecue in 12 South, coming to you Friday. As of now, per the request of some of you, Teron Davenport will join me for that hour, 10:30 to 11:30 on Friday. So a lot of people said we're your two favorites, so I thought I would get us together. So Teron and I have an hour-long conversation about all the issues of the day for the Titans. I'm looking forward to that. Plan to stay tuned. If you're a member of paulkoharski.com and you've signed up, of course, you will get a text message with a link to the YouTube version of that and a reminder that we are going live. I appreciate Sam hosting this as always. Appreciate the midweek check-in. Stay tuned for all that and more at paulkoharski.com. And as I warn you all the time, be sure to lock your locks. Don't block the box. I botched my own thing. Don't block the box, but be sure to lock your locks. See ya!